Hello, everyone. Yes, thanks, Sean, for suggesting that I do a talk on the App Store CLI tool that we've been building. What you can see here on the screen is the GitHub page for this tool. It's a completely open source project that Itty Bitty Apps has been building, and from the README you can find out what it is. And basically, it is supposed to be an easy-to-use command line tool for interacting with the AppStoreConnect API from the command line. So I think it was a couple of years ago, Apple brought us the AppStoreConnect API, which is a RESTful API for interacting with AppStoreConnect. Originally, it was pretty limited. It's mainly supported test flight operations, but with the Worldwide Developer Conference 2020, they opened all of the capabilities of the AppStoreConnect platform to their API, so you can now pretty much do everything with the API. Now, we started building the AppStoreConnect CLI before WW20, so we don't support, the tool doesn't support all of the APIs yet, just a subset of them, mostly the subset that existed before WW 2020. Now, you might be asking, why would you want this? Well, that's a good question. It's really just there to help with automation. So in our day-to-day work with building apps, we want to be able to do things with the App Store every now and again, and you can go in there and you can poke buttons, and that's actually relatively efficient. But sometimes you want to be able to automate certain repetitive actions. Might be downloading provisioning profiles, for example, during your CI process. So we wanted to do that. Now, you might also be asking, well, I can do that stuff with Fastlane. Fastlane's been around a long time, and it supports a whole bunch of App Store Connect functionality. And you'd be right, you could do that with Fastlane. And historically, we would have probably done that with Fastlane. But part of the reason for building this project was actually to try and stop using Fastlane. Personally, and maybe others share the opinion that we should be building tools in our own tool chain, building tools that are native to our platform. And that's what I wanted to do with this initiative of building this tool. Part of the problem with using tools like Fastlane and CocoaPods is that it is dependency on tooling that is somewhat deprecated on the Mac platform, being Ruby. And it also diverts our attention away from our platform's actual native tooling, such as Swift Package Manager and so on. So people invest a lot of effort and energy into tools that aren't actually core to our development experience. And it would be better, I think, personally, if we directed more energy towards the tooling that was open source and part of our actual platform. So that's part of the reason for it. As you can see from the README on the project, it's relatively easy to install with Brew. You can also install it with Mint, and eventually we'll have pre-built binaries that you can download. But for the moment, we'll use Brew. Now, I've already installed the tool on my system using Brew, and so I'm going to switch to the actual command line and just give you a bit of a demo of some of the ways in which you can use it and like how you set it up. I have it installed with Brew, so I can just type ASC and it prints out its help. Now, I'm going to try and list all the bundle IDs that we have associated with something. So I can do ASC, bundle ID, bundle IDs list. Now, if I do that, here I'm getting this cryptic error message. Now, there's a little bit of setup, which if you read the README, you'll learn how to do, and that is that you actually have to create an API key with the AppStoreConnect platform in order for you to use the tool. Now, I've already done that in the past. I've gone here into the AppStoreConnect, and I've gone to the users and access area, and in here keys, and I've gone and created a key. Now, I've downloaded that key. It only offers you to, it gives you one chance to download the key. I've downloaded the key, and I've recorded these bits and pieces of information. That is, you need the issuer ID and the key ID. So if I go back to my terminal here, I've actually conveniently created a little iba.n file here, which has those two items in there, and using fish, I will set those in the environment. And the other thing you need to do is in this directory here, you need to put the key that you downloaded, and it has to match the file name that you've downloaded. So this is the key ID over here. Anyway, the information on how to do that, again, I said, is in the README, but it's also actually in the help. If you look at the help, it tells you here in the top section under how you provide the key ID and the issuer ID to the commands. It can read it either from the command line or from the environment, and it assumes the environment if you don't specify it. So anyway, we'll get started with some things. So now that I have looked at the help and looked at my list, I can actually go and list the bundle IDs on my account or on the BB Apps account. I will do that. Just readjust my screen a little bit so you can all see it. Yeah, and unfortunately I've upped the font so the layout here is a bit wrapped around. It's very good when you have a very ultra wide screen like I do on my other screen. One of the things to also note, however, is you can output the data in different formats. So you can output it in CSV. You can output it in JSON, which is a horrible blob without any pretty printing. And you can also output it in YAML. And so these different outputs are really useful if you want to save the data out for importing into another tool or for scripting. And I'll have an example of how you can use something like JQ to get at specific bits of info a bit later on. Anyway, moving on. The other things that a lot of these commands have, if you look at the help, there's a lot of filter operations. So you can do things like filter based on the name of or filter of an identifier for a particular app. So internally at IBA, we have a little app we've been playing around with, hasn't been released yet, called Roadrunner, somewhat associated with Sean's fascination with driving cars faster and around racing tracks. And I've just filtered out all of the other IDs here with a simple filter. What other sort of things can we do? Well, I could as part of my process of development, maybe I want to create a new app. So I can register a new app. I can register a Cocoa Heads demo app in the portal, and it's registered it with the API. So if I'll prove that it worked. Where are we? Actually, the developer, not App Store. So bundle IDs. Where are we? Identifiers. Oops. There we are. Cocoa's demo. See, worked. Anyway, what are the and maybe I'm not so keen about creating a Cocoa Heads demo app, so I'm going to delete that. I'll delete that bundle ID. One of the really useful things that you can do with this, and that's actually what I use it for on a couple of apps that we're building, is downloading provisioning profiles. So one of the things that is a little bit annoying about provisioning profiles is they get invalidated, or various other things. And so and you have to have them obviously installed in the right place to build your app on your CI server. And if you use something like GitHub Actions or any of the other sort of software as a service CI platforms, those machines, they're fresh. It's a fresh VM image every time you do a build. So you've got to install the keys and your certificates and your keys and your provisioning profiles correctly before you run your build, or otherwise Xcode's not going to work very well. So one of the commands we have here is Asc Profiles List. Well, my history is spoiling the surprise. Anyway, and so we have a profile here. Now, this is a bit weird. I'm like, oh, here we have this not actually happening Mac App Store version of Reveal's provisioning profile, but I'm like, well, no, Roadrunner. I've been building and running the Roadrunner app in Xcode, and it's all been working, and it's got its provisioning profile. Why is it not showing up? Where's Xcode gone? Xcode. Roadrunner workspace. There we go. So Roadrunner uses a Xcode managed profile, and you'll notice that if you go into the AppStoreConnect interface, that they never show up under profiles, and that's the same on the command line here. The tool, when we fetch data from the API, it doesn't show the profiles, the Xcode managed profile, which is a bit frustrating. But what I learned by poking around in the AppStoreConnect API is that you can get them. You just have to get them in a different way. So we have another command as part of the AppStoreConnect CLI, which lists by bundle ID, which lets you fetch the provisioning profiles of a specific application based on its bundle ID. And now if we list that there, they show up. Now we have the iTunes team provisioning profile for the app, both for iOS development and the App Store. And that obviously is just listing them, but I can download them as well. And now it's downloaded them, put them in the current directory. But that's not very useful. What we really want to do is download them into library, mobile devices, provisioning profiles. So if we're on a CI server, we can run this command as part of our CI pipeline and actually pull down the provisioning profiles, put them in the right place, and they're just ready to go. And if I onboard a new device or I onboard a new user into my automatic signing project, or automatically managed project, everything just works. I don't have to worry about it. Anyway, just another little tip. Obviously, as I was saying before, you can output the data as JSON, but that gives you a screen full of noise. So what you really want to be able to do is fetch other bits of data out of it. So you might want to use a tool like JQ, which lets you do things like run these sort of, it has its own little query language. If you're not familiar with JQ, it's a very interesting tool to learn. But it lets you essentially do things like, here I'm deleting the profile content out of the JSON response, if I do it right. Mistyped things. So now I can see the JSON data without the profile content. Or if I want to see other specific pieces of information, I can do things like, I'm just interested in the UUID field or something out of the returned results. And anyway, JQ is very useful for using this or interpreting the output or the JSON formatted output, so you can pipe data from one command into the other and script it using a bash script, which is how you get kind of the power of using the API, is by calling multiple different endpoints or different commands one after another. And that's exactly what one of our contributors has been doing. We've got a few contributors, mostly from IBA, but we've had one or two outside contributors, and in particular, Chris Jones here appears to be using the AppStoreConnect CLI tool with Ansel, which is a automation platform for configuring computers. And I think he's using it to help automate the configuration of a build farm. What else? So just really finish off by wrapping up. These tools like this only get better by actually having humans use them. We're really interested in having more people try and use a tool like this in their workflows if they have a need or want to do something interesting with it. So have a look, have a go. If the tool doesn't do what you need it to do, then we're very happy to accept pull requests and suggestions and issues, and we can maybe make that better and more useful as time goes on. But that's all I had really for today. I hope people find it useful. Back to you, Sean.